Whew.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So let's move on with where we ended. We are going to look at methods of procurement. Now, with the methods of procurement, we have about five of them. Five of them. So we are going to look at them one by one. The first method of procurement that we call competitive tendering. Competitive tendering. Competitive tendering. Don't forget, competition was among the principles of procurement. Now, this competitive tendering can be national or international what? Competitive tendering. Yes, we are saying it can be national or international competitive tendering. So the first method of public procurement is competitive tendering, and it could be national or international competitive tendering. So when we talk about competitive tendering, it is a method in which all potential suppliers or contractors are invited to take part in public bidding for the supply of goods, works, and service. So here, because competition is one of the principles of procurement, we open up the bidding process to all potential people who are qualified to take part in the procurement process, whether they have what we need so that we give them a word of contract for them to supply or render the service. So that was competitive tendering, a method in which all potential suppliers or contractors are invited to take part in public procurement or bidding for the supply of goods, works, and service. Now, like I mentioned, there are two types of competitive tendering. That is what? National competitive tendering. Here we are only going to allow domestic nationals or local suppliers or contractors. We are going to invite them to participate in a public tender for the supply of goods, works, or services. I think Elizabeth had a question to ask, right? Am I right? Before the line went out. Lizzie, can you confirm, please? Or Lizzie is offline.
Maybe he hasn't joined. She hasn't joined yet.
Oh, she did, though. I accepted her.
No, she is
Uh,
so she's here.
She is.
She is, yeah.
Lizzie, can you hear me, please? Lizzie, unmute yourself. Lizzie, if you are talking, I can't hear you. You've muted yourself. Okay, perhaps maybe she might be busy, but listening as well. Okay, let's continue. So there are two types of competitive tendering. National competitive tendering, where only domestic suppliers or contractors.
Hello, sorry, please, sorry, my screen froze, so I couldn't unmute.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, I'd already joined.
Okay, I was saying you had a question before we went out.
The question, yeah. I think that's what you answered about if somebody's a sole proprietor, they should be able to put in their tender, even though they don't have the employees, they don't have the employees to execute the task.
Yes.
But I think that's what you answered, that if the sole proprietor, I think that one they have.
Yes, in fact,
it's
I know a lot of sole proprietorship who bid for government contract. You know, for a sole proprietor, because, in fact, don't forget, even if you're a sole proprietorship, you have to file your returns. And so the sole proprietor will meet that requirement here. All director, an individual is required. In fact, even you and I, you who are on this Zoom platform, you have to even file your returns every year with the Ghana Revenue Authority. Yes, it is our civic and constitutional responsibility to do that. So a sole proprietorship, even if you don't have workers and you are on your own and you win a contract, you should be able to go and hire people to execute the contract, isn't it? I know a lot of subcontractors who bid for government contracts and they go and hire laborers to do the work. All right. Let's
Thank you.
International competitive tendering. With international competitive tendering, the tendering is open to foreign firms. The tendering is what? Open to foreign firms or companies to enhance effective competition. Yes, the reason is that because when maybe we award it to the local people, they may do shoddy work. We want to involve foreign people, but we know foreign people will give us the best. So the local people will also up their game. Let's say Kantanka against Toyota or Nissan in the supply of cars. So we open the tendering process to foreign firms or company. So the competition will be tight. So if you are Kantanka and you are coming, you are not coming to offer us something shoddy, but you come to offer us something of high international standards. That is international competitive tendering. Now, all public procurement should be carried out using competitive tendering rules unless otherwise provided. It means that I told you there are 5 procurement methods. The default one is always competitive tendering, and it is the most standard and required one to use unless otherwise provided. You look at that exception, like I mentioned, supply of ammunitions. We can't do what? Competitive tendering for supply of what? Ammunition.
Ammunition.
In fact, you not even hear of it before you realize the item had been acquired or supplied or procured. Let's look at the second method of public procurement. We'll call it two-stage tendering. Two-stage tendering. Two-stage tendering. Two-stage tendering. Now, you hear two-stage tendering. It means this method of procurement are in stages. So in the first stage, the suppliers or contractors are all invited to submit initial tenders. Initial tenders which contain their proposals. Without a tender price. Let me explain this. See, here, because it is in stages, let's say we need to procure furniture. We invite Agohu, Bogas. Then we invite another. We've given them the specification. So here, they will just submit their proposals. Let's say we say we need a furniture that has a sliding disc with some movable or something that students can put their water bottle or their pens in. We give them all the specification. We also need something under that when students are sitting, they can put their bags on. So we get a specification during the announcement or in the papers and everything. In the first step, these suppliers or contractors will supply their initial tenders. which will contain their proposal, but they shouldn't indicate the price. Does it make sense? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, did you get me?
Sir, please come again.
I'm saying with two-stage tendering, it is in two stages. In the first stage, suppliers or contractors are invited to submit initial tenders, which contains their proposals without any tender price. What it means is that what we want, we must have published or advertised. Then they will come with their proposals with all the specification, but there's no price attached in the first stage. We don't want to know the price. The price will be known in the second stage because perhaps we might have studied their proposals at the first stage. Does it make sense?
Okay. Yes, it makes sense.
Lizzie, does it make sense?
Yes.
Aha. So because they are in two stages, the first we are saying that bring your proposals, don't include price. In the first stage, the procurement entity is going to study whether their proposals meet what they want. Okay. Let's continue. In the second stage, suppliers or contractors whose tenders have been accepted are invited to submit final tenders with prices on a single set of specifications. Please, does it make sense now, Lizzie? You see, in the first stage, we didn't ask for prices, but we studied it and we chose those that we want. Then in the second stage, we will invite those we have accepted to submit their final tenders with prices on a single set. So that's a two-stage method of procurement. Now,
okay,
what conditions will necessitate the use conditions for use of two-stage method? What condition? One, where it is not feasible to procure entity to formulate detailed specification for other goods. One, where it is not feasible for procurement entity to formulate detailed specification for goods, works, and service. Yes. So you see, here it could stem from the fact that maybe the entity, they are not too much experienced in whatever they want to procure. And so they are not able to formulate the specification. See, they're not able to tell, they don't actually know what they want. So if you don't know what you want, and you invite people at the first stage without prices, you see that, hey, this furniture can perform so many functions. Let's go for this one. Then later you open another contractor own. You know that his own can perform more functions. So, oh, this one has more functions. Okay. Then we want this one. Then later in the second stage, we ask him to submit final with prices. The second is when the procurement entity seeks to enter into a contract for research.
Please, I have a question.
I'm coming. For contracts into research, experiment, study, or development, except for commercial purposes. So look, have you heard of Noguchi Memorial Institute?
Yes, at Legon.
At Legon, good. Those research institutions where they do most of their procurement for research and experimental purposes for public use, they will normally go by the two-stage method. Lizzie, go ahead with your question, please. Lizzie?
Okay, so based on what you're saying, what it means is that institutions that use the two-stage tendering do not really factor cost as an important determinant. They usually look at the quality and the specifications.
Okay, they do, but at the first stage, they don't need to know the price. But then they want to know, because they're not too familiar with what they want. They want so many options at the first stage to see which one meets their specification or solve their problem at the first stage. But after knowing the specification they want or what they didn't know existed, then they will select the best one with detailed specification that meets their needs and ask the contractor or the supplier to now submit a final one with price on a single set of specification. Lizzie, I don't know whether I answered your question right.
Yes.
So price is a concern for them. It's not that price is not an issue, but at the first stage, they don't attach much importance to pricing. The first stage is more about specification, knowing what meets their needs that they don't even know will meet their needs. Let's say they need something, a phone that can take pictures. Then they realize that, there's a phone that can take pictures front and back. It can also even take video. In fact, the phone even has other features that they didn't know. So it was
like first
that they got to know all this. Then they will select. Then they ask you, okay, what is the price now? Before contract award. Can you move on, please?
Yes.
Okay, the next one is restricted tendering. Here, only a few suppliers or contractors are invited to participate in the procurement process for reason of economy and efficiency. So here, because we don't want so many people, we also don't want to, the procurement process is also costly and lengthy. And so if we invite so many people to go through, in fact, it's not going to be efficient and it's not going to be economical because we are going to spend more. So we restrict the process to only a few people or only a few suppliers who are contracted for cost issue or for efficiency. And this one is normally open to tenders who have been selected through pre-qualification process. So in fact, this one is like they already have the suppliers in their database and they know them. Anytime they need something, they go to them. They know those people have met requirements already. They are people they have been dealing with. So there's something like more or less like a pre-qualification process that has been done, and the people are there. Once they need them, they go to them and do the procurement. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So what are the conditions? Conditions appropriate for restricted tendering. For restricted tendering, yes. And at what condition will an entity use restricted tendering? One, if the goods, works, or service are available only from a limited number of suppliers or contractors. Yes. Because, for example, in Ghana here, if you want to procure something like, which company in Ghana produce gun? You know, Anthony, you know a company that produces gun?
No.
No. In fact, if you do, I would have reported you.
I don't know any such company.
Then let's look at even some mining equipment. Which companies in Ghana produce, I mean, those heavy, I'm not talking about galamsey, chamfai, and those things. No. Those ones, they are produced locally. But I mean, those heavy-duty mining equipment for the aviation industry, equipment for those at sea. I mean, specialized equipment in Ghana here.
You don't have such a company.
You don't have such a company. So normally,
yes,
they will do restricted tendering to a company overseas they are comfortable with. Then that's it. The second condition is if time and cost required to examine and evaluate. If time and cost required to examine and evaluate a large number of tenders is disproportionate to the value of goods, works, and services. Yes, maybe the procurement process we are going to pass through, it will even cost us more than the items we are going to buy or the service. Then obviously we'll go by restricted tendering. We're not going to waste our time and invite this thing from so many people. No. Then we have the fourth one, which is single sourcing. Single sourcing. Single sourcing. With single sourcing, only one supplier or contractor is hand-picked. Only one supplier or contractor is hand-picked to supply the goods, works, or services. In fact, this method does not permit any competition at all, if you agree with me. And therefore, it remains a very major high-risk area in public procurement. Don't forget, all procurement entities must seek approval from the Public Procurement Authority before using this method of single sourcing. So it means it's not allowed. What are the conditions for using single sourcing? Where the goods or service are only available from a single supplier. Yes, more or less like what? The two-stage.
Monopoly.
Monopoly. 2, where there's an urgent need for the goods, service, or works. Where there's an urgent need for the goods, service, or works. And more also, when there's a contract for research, experiment, study, or development, not for commercial purpose. What bell is it ringing? This one is ringing bell. It's looking like the border of what? Restricted tendering. Not so?
Tendering.
Yes. And then normally, 4, for national security concerns. Yes, the police, the army. You can't tell the army that they should do competitive tendering for supply of guns and ammunition. No. So national security concerns. Then 5, where additional supplies need to be procured from a supplier who had made supply in an immediate past. Where additional supplies need to be procured from a supplier who had made a supply in the immediate past. Yes, so here, like they know the supplier already. He has supplied to them, so they don't need any new person with anything. In fact, they are satisfied with the competence, the qualification, the criteria the person has met. In fact, previously or recently, the person did the work very well. And so they are satisfied with the person, and so they will go to him or her. The last one is what we call request for quotations. I mentioned this one. This one, it is a method in which the entity requests invoices from as many suppliers. So here, entity requests invoices from as many suppliers, but at least 3, and pick the supplier with the lowest invoice or quotation amount. Yes, so this one, Anthony, you are in the office.
Yeah.
You need just, something, a dustbin, in the public sector, whatever. You walk to Mokola or whoever, you ask for 3 invoices or quotation. When they give you, you take like only as many as you can. Then you only select 3. The 3, you pick the one who is offering you with the least price. Then you buy from the person. Is that okay?
Yes.
So that is request for quotation as a method of procurement. What are the conditions for using this one? Where the goods are readily available. Yes. You just, in fact, you walk out across the street, now you see them in the container shop selling it. So many of them. You ask 4, 5, 6, 7, but you select 3. Then you buy from the one with the lowest price. Then the other condition for using this one is where established market exists for the goods and services. Yeah, and you can easily get it. There's an established market already for it. Then lastly, where low-cost goods and services are required. Where low-cost goods and services are required. Yes. What we are going to do, I wish time will permit us, but we are going to look at something the Procurement Act using the fifth schedule, thresholds to identify which procurement method to use. In fact, throughout the class, I was waiting to be asked the question, so which procurement method should we use? Though I mentioned the competitive tendering is the default one. So we are going to look at something in the Act that gives us the threshold to use, which method to use. Yes, we are going to look at that. So this one is in the Act. Now, the examiner is telling us that students must know the threshold for the use of the procurement methods. Practical procurement cases are sometimes given, and we students are required to use the authorized threshold to determine the procurement method to use. So I have a table like this. Here I'll have the procurement method. Then here I'll have the threshold. Okay. So the procurement method, the first one was what? International competitive tender. International competitive tender. So with international competitive tender, we are going to look for if it is goods. So goods under international competitive tender. Then under it, we have works. Then we also have technical services. So please, this is how you should read the table. International competitive tender. Under it, we have goods, works, and technical service. Is that all right? So that's how this is a procurement method. Don't forget, international competitive tender is one of the procurement method. Now, what is the threshold? If it is for goods, we are saying above 10 million Ghana cedis. Above 10 million Ghana cedis. So let's say in the public sector, they want to go and buy something, and the value of that thing is about 10 million Ghana cedis. It means that they have to use competitive what? Tendering. Hello?
Hi.
Does it make sense?
Hi.
Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
What I'm saying that the threshold is that if you are going to buy something and the value of the thing you are going to buy is above 10 million Ghana cedis and is for goods, then use what? International competitive what? Tendering. Do you agree with me or do you understand?
Yeah, I understand, please.
Yes, for goods only.
Yes.
Let's say you want to buy buses or Land Cruiser or whatever, and the value of that items that you are going to buy, the value of the item is above 10 million Ghana cedis. The method you should use is what? International competitive tendering for goods. It means you have to invite foreign firms or companies to take part in the tendering process. Now, the net threshold is that for works, if the contract we are going to award for the supply of works is above 15 million Ghana cedis, then the Act is telling us that we should use international competitive what? Tendering for works. So get the difference. If it's goods and the value is above 10 million, use international competitive tendering. If it's for works and the contract value is above 50 million Ghana cedis, then use international competitive tendering. Then, if it's above 5 million Ghana cedis for technical services or services, then use international competitive tendering. Please, does it make sense to you?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, please. This one is a Pasco. Now, let's move on to national competitive tendering. So we are done with international competitive tendering. Let's look at national competitive tendering. If it is insert below, insert below. So let's look at national, goods, works, technical services. Oh, unfortunately, our time is running out. But please, should we close here after this section?
Yes, please, I second.
Yes, sir.
We should close after this section, eh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that means I have to be fast. For national competitive tendering, if it is more than 100,000 to 10 million Ghana cedis, then we have to use national competitive tendering for goods. Okay. Then if it is more than 200,000, so 200K to 15 million for works. Then for technical service, more than 50,000 up to 5 million. Up to 5 million Ghana cedis. Then we have to use national competitive tendering for technical service. Please, the class ends very soon, so we've ended it. Now we'll continue later next week. There's only left with a question to solve, and that will be all. See you.